Hi everyone. When making a title sequence, there's a few more techniques that we're going to be looking at that might be helpful for the project that you have going on. So some of these include rotoscoping, the rotoscope tool in After Effects, blend modes, other effects, and time remapping. Alright, so I've thrown together a very quick example of some of these tools. Let's take a look at what I've put together here. Okay, so something very quick, very simple, but that's for the show Andor, which probably a lot of you have heard about. There's not much of a title sequence for that show, so that's why I decided to use that for an example. So first off, you'll notice as I play this through, you see this walking figure is kind of in this neon glow, but the walking figure is in it's from a YouTube clip of Andor, the main character of the series. So first off, you may need to know how to download videos from YouTube. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick, just for those of you who are unaware. Alright, so if I have, let's say this is where the video came from. I'll show you the original scene here. Actually, make sure, let me get in the right spot. Here it goes. So you see the back of Andor walking through the street, and that is what I used for the rotoscoping tool to get these graphics right here. Okay, so first things first, you have to download the video. If you are using a scene from YouTube or something like that. If you're using your own videos or other photo media, then you don't have to worry about this step. This is just for downloading from YouTube. So you can copy the URL link up here, or you can go to share and copy this link here. And then if you just do a Google search for YouTube video download, one of the top results should work. This one here, I don't particularly recommend any of these. It's just, whatever kind of shows up. But this one here, there weren't any ads. It says 100% ad free. So if you click on that and then you paste that YouTube URL link and you press get video, then you can download it. I'd recommend 1080 or 1440p, and you can download the video. So that's how you get some of these scenes and clips off of YouTube. Okay. Then you bring in the videos you see in my project view here. I can see I had a few other videos that I downloaded as well. We see them here, and let me go ahead and start from scratch. I'm going to make a new composition, kind of go through the process pretty quickly. But before I do that, I also want to just mention how some of these other effects we see, there is a find edges effect, there is a glow effect, of course, and there is a kaleidoscope effect, and then there are blend modes. That's how we get some of these overlapping things here. We kind of see the title before it gets revealed in this section, and then we still see some of the pieces of the kaleidoscope in the background through the text. So that's with blend modes. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and start from scratch. Let me just go ahead and make a new composition. Have this be full HD 1920 by 1080, and in this case I'm going to use a 30 frame per second frame rate. So under the section for frame rate, changing that to 30. We're keeping that as it is right now. And then I can select one of these clips that I've imported here, drag and drop it down, and I can play the video in my sequence here and the audio will be turned on. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Now, when you do this, the video will be there. However, we're going to get started with the rotoscoping tool. And one thing that might happen, especially if you are downloading videos from YouTube, the frame rate needs to be matching between the video source and your composition settings for the rotoscoping tool to work. So my composition settings I was set to 30 frames per second. So you may, before you import it, drag it into your sequence here, you may have to change the frame rate of the video. And I'll show you how to do that. So I'm actually going to go ahead and delete that. And I'm going to right click or control click on the video title here in the project window. And then go down to interpret footage and then main. And then this is where, now that my settings are already correct, you may have to change this, but you can click on conform to frame rate, and then you type in 30 frames per second, basically whatever it is that's matching your composition, which I did have 30 frames per second. So I put in 30 here. So now the clip, this video, is going to be interpreted as 30 frames per second, whether it is or not. And I press OK, and now it should work. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it back down here. And the next step, you need to find the section that you want to use. So let's see, here's the walking section here. We'll start at the beginning right before his head pops in. And then Command-Shift-D on Mac, I believe Control-Shift-D, possibly on Windows. The Command-Shift-D splits that layer. So when I press that, I see wherever my playhead is, it splits that layer. So I can click on that first section, press delete. Now I can drag this over so that the video starts right where I want it. And I can also do the same thing at the end. I only want it to go to the end of the scene where it shows him walking from behind. So I just put my playhead at one of the last frames here, and then again Command-Shift-D to split it, and I'll just delete the back part of that video. Alright, so now I'm left with just this scene of him walking down the street. Alright, so now I've clicked on this layer. I'm going to go up here to the rotobrush tool. Now, just a little background on rotoscoping. Basically, rotoscoping, a summary of it is drawing out, tracing over images. So it comes from a history of animation where they actually had devices where you could have a video or even someone acting in real time, and you see it, you draw over, and you basically trace over the image to get some sort of like drawn animation that matches the movement. So that's where it's coming from. That's rotoscoping. And there's plenty of examples if you want to look at rotoscoping animation. I highly recommend doing a deep dive on that. Search for it on YouTube or a design site. You'll get a lot of examples of good rotoscoping. Okay, so again, I clicked on the video. I'm going up to the rotobrush tool, and I'm going to select that. But we're not actually going to be doing anything in this. So my composition was just titled Comp 1. I didn't name it anything. So we're not actually using the rotobrush tool in Comp 1. We need to double click on this video layer. So if I double click on the video layer, you see it opens up the layer separately. And now with my rotobrush tool, you see my cursor has changed to a green circle with a plus symbol. I can set the playhead somewhere where I can clearly see the figure that I'm wanting to rotoscope. And then I'm going to do a quick kind of trace of his body. And then you get this pink line. Now, most of the time it's not going to be perfect right away. So I get this pink line that's showing this selected area. Well, it's traced nicely just on this left edge, but then it's getting the buildings and the sky and everything else here on the right side. We don't want that. So if you need to remove some of this selected area, hold down the Option key on Windows, and you'll see the cursor changes from the green circle to the red circle. Now I can kind of trace around the outside, and it gets rid of all of that area. Now I got rid of too much, because you can see his head here is not within, it's not traced around with that pink line again. So now with the green circle, I'm going to go back in and just barely go around that section. It should get his head. There's a little bit of his shoulder here I want to get. And there's actually, I'm going to zoom in, still a little bit too much outside of the shoulder here. So I'm going to hold down Option again, try to get rid of that area. And you just kind of refine it a few times until you get it the way you want. A little bit more of his collar here that I want to get in there. A little bit more of the shoulder. Maybe a little bit less around the top of his head. Whoops. Okay. It doesn't have to be exact. And then once you press play, you'll see that frame by frame it is doing its best to follow the outline of that figure. So it's going pretty slowly. That's okay. And we'll start from the beginning again. Sometimes it needs a little bit time to load. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. You may, depending on how the results look, you may have to go frame by frame to clean it up. So on a Mac, if you hold down Command and then right or left arrow, you can move frame by frame, one frame at a time, forward or backwards in time. So I'm holding down Command, pressing the right arrow key, and it is moving forward. And there's nothing that's too bad. It's okay if it gets a little rough. You'll see right this frame, we miss a little bit of the collar, so I'm actually going to add that back in. So you can spend a little more time refining it, going frame by frame, but hopefully the results, depending on the video, this one's a little hard because it's very muted. A lot of the colors, it's kind of cool grays, very desaturated color palette are all kind of mixed together, but it still did a good job. Okay, now with that done, you can also, if you have a subject with maybe some like hair that's very difficult to get in, little strands of hair, you can also, under the rotobrush tool, click and hold down and do the refine edge tool, and then go around the head, and then anywhere that is in white is what is kept, black is not kept, and sometimes that can help. You can refine some of these. I encourage you to, if you're not getting the results you need, maybe look for some tutorials that are specifically about the rotobrush tool and the refine edge tool. They will go a little bit more in depth in how to use these, but this is basically everything you need for right now. Okay, once you have everything the way you want it, then you press freeze. So when I'm happy with the results, I'm going to press freeze, and it is going to go over the frames again And then once it is done freezing, then we can go back to the main composition and you'll see just the figure cut out with none of this background, none of the streets and buildings all around it. That's what we can start to use with various effects for the title sequence. So it's just going to go a little slow. I can already, while we're waiting for this, I could suggest if you use some of these tools, this rotoscoping, and you isolate a specific character or a specific piece of a video, then when you have that by itself, you can do a lot more to it. Instead of trying to manipulate it within the original scene with all the other people and the road and sky and all that around, it's much easier to do interesting things, interesting effects with just small pieces. All right, so I go back to my composition and here we go. So we see just Andor himself walking, and it's buffering a little bit because I have the resolution at full. I'm going to take it down to half, just maybe we can render a little faster. But that's what we need. Okay, now also we want to increase the size. So a keyboard shortcut for scale, if you click on a layer and just press S on your keyboard, it brings up the scale option. I'm going to scale it up so that the bottom part touches the edge, so it looks more natural coming out from the bottom. Okay. Now let's go over the glow effects that I used to get something like this. Now you can go to your effects and presets and just look for glow and put that on. But let's change the colors just so we can see real quick. It might not even look that great right now. Okay, so here's a kind of glow. This may be the look you're going for. This was not the look that I wanted when I was making this. I wanted something a little more neon, a little more gritty. So before you use a glow, and you can just use a glow. If this is what you're wanting, you can mess around with these settings, this glow radius, glow intensity, the color settings here, and the threshold. They will affect the video quite a lot. If that's what you want, great. But first off, I'm going to look for find edges. So I'm going to click on find edges in the effects, apply it, and then I'm going to press invert. So we just see some of these, it's almost like this intensified the edges and in the character video. All right, with that, then I can go back to the glow, apply the glow. Let me change the colors again. I'll do that kind of magenta color and the blue. And then we've taken that video and just done something interesting to it. So a lot of this is going to be, how do we kind of spice it up? There's lots of effects here. You guys have already been getting familiar with all of these effects. You probably have been experimenting with some of them, hopefully. There's a lot more. I would recommend just getting dirty, grabbing an effect, put it on the video, and see what happens. Mess with the settings. In this case, we're just going to use this. And then the next thing I did, I'm going to duplicate. Command D is the shortcut. This video, I also had a kaleidoscope. You can adjust some of these. You can do some cool stuff here. Then I'm just going to scale up So it's much bigger. It's buffering a little bit, but you can see the cool effects you can get. If I turn on, we move this layer above. That's basically what I'm doing with this walking figure, walking in front of this kaleidoscopic, kind of trippy, neon, glowing background. That is an option. I am absolutely not saying that's what you should do, but this shows a way of thinking through taking video media and spicing it up, get some sort of interesting thing happening in the background. I also, one quick note, I don't necessarily think this kind of gritty neon look is necessarily right for Andor, the show in general. So don't think that just because I'm showing that that is, you know, the best option. It's more of a way to show some of these other effects, specifically things you can do with the rotoscoping brush, and then what can be applied on top of it. Okay, so one other quick thing I want to talk about, blend modes. So if I go ahead and I'm going to make a new layer, a new excuse me, text layer. I'm going to go ahead and type in Andor here. Let's just go ahead, change the color, and then this is probably not going to look great right away, but if I control click or right click on that text layer, and you can do this with any layer, not just text, I'm going to go to blending mode. So for those of you that are familiar with Photoshop and Illustrator, you probably have used blend modes. This is how you do blend modes in After Effects. You right click, and then up here in the menu, blend mode, and then unfortunately you have to click on them one by one. It's not as easy as Photoshop. But if you do a blend mode like this, you can see it's actually blending. I know this one I used multiply, but it's blending that text color with the layers behind it. Let's try a few more just to find something that, you know, maybe looks a little better. Screen actually isn't too bad because we can see it, and then you'll notice, let's say the light areas here, we can see it through these magenta letters. So common blend modes, multiply, screen, overlay, depending on if the layer is darker or lighter or highly saturated or not. A lot of this is going to be trial and error. It's going to be right click, go to blend modes, let's try hue, let's do something different, and going through them until you find something that you like. I actually think for the one I had before, I think I had a silhouette on the Luma. I believe that's the one I used. Not that it's relevant for here because we're working with different colors anyway. Okay, so that's blend modes. I can also turn this off. I could even blend Andor with this kaleidoscope background as well. So if I right click on that layer and just let's do overlay, and you'll see now he's kind of blended in. You can barely see him. It's a little bit difficult. Let's just keep going through. Let's do something a little bit different. We'll do let me try this. Yeah, so we can see him a little bit better, more like the silhouette. That might be an effect that's appealing to you. All of that is done through blend mode. So blend modes really do help things kind of come together, meet in the middle, and feel a little more natural. Helps different video pieces feel like they're existing in the same space instead of it being like these hard edges that, you know, may be causing issues with the overall look of your video. All right, let me just make sure if there's anything else that I used in here. Yeah, kaleidoscope. And then, this is something we've covered before. This is also just the title. I have it in a couple different layers duplicated, and then a position animation. So one layer goes above, one goes below, and they're just different colors. And then I have the blend modes where you can see the stuff happening in the background. All right, so that is the rotobrush tool, blend modes and effects like find edges. And hopefully some of these things will be helpful if you're feeling a little bit lost in how to make a title sequence. I would start by grabbing some of these video clips. You can download them from YouTube if necessary, and then rotobrushing them out so we get individual pieces that you can start moving them around. If I wanted to, let me take off the kaleidoscope. I could even duplicate this layer of him, Andor, and move it around. Like maybe there's some sort of an effect where I'm wanting to kind of duplicate, repeat the motion. I'm not exactly sure why I would want to do that, but it's an option. When you have a piece scoped out, you have a lot more control over the things you can do to that one piece individually. Maybe I would turn it into some sort of interesting grid. Grids are usually very aesthetically pleasing. That might be something I could do. Maybe I could also mirror it or change the colors of each of these layers. There's a lot of different options. Maybe some of them could reveal text, and that's how you get like the character names or directed by or the actual title itself. So we'll look at, in a future video, we'll look at some other techniques like motion tracking as well. Sometimes that can be helpful for something like a title sequence. Hopefully this can also just get the ball rolling and just learning a few new features. So let me know if you have any questions. Send me an email or write a comment or something if things are not working, and I'll be happy to kind of work through it with you to get it in good shape.